whether I've said much about myself. I am a conservationist representing Nature Saskatchewan on the board, one of the conservation groups. I live and farm at Indian Head, ban birds, take photographs, put a conservation easement on my land to preserve the native aspen and wetlands. And also, don't hold this against me, but was a member of the legislature in the 1990s and served as Minister of Environment. Thank you. No, okay. So next, we're ahead on our agenda. Diane Bowles, North American Helium. Helium development in Southwest Saskatchewan is underway, and other than briefly hearing about it, we know very little, at least many of us know very little about what it involves. So Donna will fill us in, assuming this works.
Hi, this is Caitlin here, and we actually have Vance Blydo, who will be speaking today instead of Donna, and I will be passing the screen over to Vance. Just one moment, please.
You there, Caitlin?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay, Vance?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. And do you have your presentation nearby? Sorry, we're a little ahead of schedule.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's on my other screen now. What screen can you see of mine?
I can see the calendar.
Ah, okay, my bad. I'm on a different screen.
No problem.
Now do you see my presentation?
I see the presenter mode, just the presenter mode. So if you go up to display settings and click there, then you can swap presenter mode. Yes. Perfect. That looks good on our end for the people on the line. And the people in Eastend, can you see Vance's presentation?
So just for clarification, I guess I'm just going to assume that we're running live here now. Donna Bowles was the person that was the contact for SODCAP to touch base with North American Helium, and she is the Vice President of Land and Government Relations. And then she asked me to present kind of an operational update for North American Helium, and how it affects and how we are working in the same area as SODCAP. So I guess without any further ado, I can kind of carry on. I guess I'd like to thank Tom for the invitation for North American Helium to present today at the SODCAP AGM 2020. And I guess we look forward to working with SODCAP in any capacity, what we can help along the way. Okay, so we'll just go disclaimers. Quick North American Helium overview. We're a private helium exploration and production company. We've invested over $100 million of capital into Southwest Saskatchewan through land acquisition, seismic, frontier drilling, exploration, and completions. And now we've actually started into building purification plants. Our core operating team is 12 professionals, and we're actually scattered throughout the country, all the way from Vancouver to New Brunswick. And we have 10 subject matter experts, and they are scattered throughout North America, actually, Edmonton, Windsor, Calgary, and down into Houston. North American Helium, we are the most active helium driller in the world. I don't think I know of anyone else who's actually drilling for helium. But we've drilled to date 20 exploration wells in southwest Saskatchewan, with 12 of them being commercial. And we find ourselves in 2020 kind of at a pivotal time in our life cycle, where we're going from just purely exploration to actually production and commerciality of helium in southwest Saskatchewan. And I guess our expectations and growth over the next many years is to have a continuous drilling and exploration program, and following that by building, single well plants and multi-well plants, and our prediction be one of those every 12 to 24 months. I guess the growing technology and the uses for helium. One thing, helium cannot be synthesized, so we can't produce it. It has to be produced naturally, and we have to find it, by drilling for it or producing it with natural gas. Some of the items that you will recognize is the MRI machines. It's used in MRIs for cooling, microchips. All our phones, when they produce our microchips and put our phones together, they use helium for a blanket gas, so you have a very stable and uncontaminated working area. Space exploration, helium is also used in welding, leak detection, lifting gas, meaning, like if you do any research on Boeing, they have an airship, and of course, party balloons, nuclear fission, and quantum computing. Helium usages, and I'll get into that in a minute. I'll just do some quick facts. Helium was discovered in 1868. Helium is also a colorless, odorless, tasteless, non-toxic, inert gas. It's the second most abundant gas in the universe. It's just not very abundant on Earth. The other most abundant gas is hydrogen. Helium characteristics, it's very stable. That's why it's used in the welding and in microchip production. It has a very low boiling point, minus 272 degrees Celsius. That's why it's used in those the MRIs to cool the supermagnets. And it's the second lightest element, and only second to hydrogen. If you go over to the pie chart, kind of gives you a quick breakdown of the usages. Cryogenics leading the usage board, along with lifting, electronics, fiber optics, and welding. And then there's leak detection, analytics, pressure and purging, diving, and then just some various uses for other small uses. The supply and demand dynamics on a world scale. Currently, I wouldn't say it's in a shortage, but it's with the the current environment, with our economy is being very slow. It probably is maybe in a bit of an oversupply right now, but the long-term trend, as the blue line indicates, the helium demand is going up, and North America is actually shrinking as a supplier, and that is due to the BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management, who had a strategic reserve in the U.S. in Amarillo, Texas. They have since decided to sell that off, and by the end of 2020 here, everything will be sold off. So the dark green in that picture there is the production in North America, which is going to be dropping. So we found ourselves a niche, and we're going to try to flatten out that curve in North America, and exploit that. So since it will be a friendly supply of helium The other big suppliers right now are mostly Eastern European countries, Poland, Siberia, and then also the big LNG plants in Qatar and as byproducts. I guess getting back to Saskatchewan here is an ideal operating location with big upside, meaning that we have a friendly environment, we have great governments to work with, and we're looking forward to using this to our advantage and working with all levels of government. The right geology in Southwest Saskatchewan. To create helium, you need uranium and thorium in the rock. Those two elements make up a helium molecule. And those are the two source rocks, I guess. And it also, what we call it is the Williston Basin in Southwest Saskatchewan is a helium kitchen. Also in Southwest Saskatchewan, we have the perfect infrastructure. We have lots of roads, the Trans-Canada Highway, great working class and workforce, and we're kind of piggybacking on the oil and gas workforce. We'll never be able to displace that, but I think we're complementing it and making sure we're sharing all the services. And then also with the 36,000 wells that have been drilled for oil and gas, we used all that information to infer where our reservoirs are, which are below the oil and gas window in Southwest Saskatchewan. We see it as a low cost and a low execution risk area. We use existing seismic, for the last 30, 40 years. Oil and gas companies have been using seismic, shooting seismic. We can, purchase that at a very reasonable discount price to enhance all our opportunities by using the seismic to discover new reserves and reservoirs. We also drill vertical wells, use the same drilling rigs as oil and gas. Everything is 100% the same as far as those services when you are drilling and exploring for oil and gas. And then also we use, we're bringing these wells on primary production, so then we won't have to do any fracture stimulation or any type of stimulation at all, other than just perforating the well and producing the well. And then once we get it to surface, that's kind of where it changes. We pivot towards the helium industry and the plants that we use to separate the helium from the bulk gas. We use a technology that's fairly old. It's a 1970s type of vintage technology. The only what that's really expanded is just using the new materials in the 2000s, and that technology is primarily in the membranes and the pressure switch absorption processes we use to separate the helium from the bulk gas. Our asset overview. In near-term production, we do have a single well purifier out in Cypress, just south of the Cypress Hills. If you know where this Cypress Hill or Cypress Lake is, we're just a mile south of there. We started construction in June and we had our first production in July of 2020 here. And we are currently exploring out there right now, and hopefully we can build a few more of these. Also, Battle Creek, which is south of Council. We are currently in construction mode there. We've ordered a plant. It'll be a multi-well plant, and hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll be on production there July 2021. Development projects, which is Clayton fields. We have Clayton North, Clayton Northwest. We have a couple of successful exploration wells there. We've completed them, and we're just doing evaluations of the reserves to see if there are enough reserves there to put a single or a multi-well plant there. And then other holdings, we do have holdings in the US and in Utah. And then finally, our land holdings in Saskatchewan, we hold about 3.7 million acres. That would be continuous acres. I guess if you put it in perspective, land all the way from the southwest corner to almost Morris or Moose Jaw, just to give you kind of an idea of what it looks like. And I'll show you a map on the next slide. This is kind of just illustrating the same, illustrating the previous slide, just giving you an idea where our primary focus is, with Battle Creek being the most southwesterly production area, and Cypress being north of that, and then Clayton and Clayton North and Northwest, which are basically right at Eastend, just south and east of Eastend. That just kind of gives you a perspective of where we are. And then the map in the top right-hand corner shows our lands, and then the red line is the south of the divide area in southwest Saskatchewan. So it gives you a perspective. We have about 30% of our lands in the south of the divide. So, you know, it just gives you a perspective. Again, talking about the 3.7 million acres, the green boxes are the developments for North American helium. Our helium gas, our helium content in our bulk gas is anywhere between 0.5% to 0.9 or 1%. Two other operators have plants out there right now. The Canadian Helium up north of Swift Current at the Wilhelm field, their percentage is about 1.9 in their bulk gas. And then there's a Mankota field by the Wild Group, and they're 1.4% helium in their bulk gas. So it gives you a bit of a perspective of where the production is in southwest Saskatchewan. Cypress, this is just a quick overview of our little single well battery. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see all of this now because we actually put a building over the majority of the production equipment. So you'll just see the wellhead and a couple other buildings with a big pole shed. I guess most people who are on the line probably understand what a pole shed is, over top of the rest of it to keep the, or control the climate, keep it warm. Anyways, the single well battery, this little one is capable of 4 million standard cubic feet a day of bulk gas, and that bulk gas consists of 96% nitrogen, about 1% helium, and 3% other gases. To understand it, basically the gas comes out of the well, goes into our helium recovery unit, comes out of there, gets pressurized and put into a tube trailer. So if we just follow the numbers, number one, it's coming out of the well, go along the high line, go into the inlet separator where if there was some water gets separated and put into the tank. The gas flows on, goes through membranes, and then comes out at low pressure, comes over here, gets compressed back up to process pressure, goes through these big vessels here, which are the pressure switch absorption, or PSAs, comes out of there rich helium and goes over to our helium compressor number 5, and then into a high pressure tube trailer. You've probably seen them going down the road. Nitrogen ones, they're all similar. They just will have a different gas in them. Moving on to Battle Creek commercialization. This would be our multi-well plant down in the bottom left is the pipelines that are currently under construction. There's 4 wells being tied in here. And then this 3D model rendition of what our plant is going to look like. This multi-well plant will be capable of 20 million standard cubic feet a day of bulk gas. And it's a similar content as the Cypress with 96% nitrogen, 1% helium, and 3% other gases. The bulk gas will flow into the processing plant. It'll be very similar to the Cypress. Things are a lot bigger, and there's a few other small nuances to the process, but very, very similar. Go through the processing plant, go to the go to the helium compressor, and then at this plant, we'll have a multi-tube trailer docking station, and that'll aid us. And depending on what markets we are sending our gas to, where you would look at a 98.5, which would be similar to a crude helium, all the way up to a 99.999% purity, which is 5 nines if anyone knows the industry, and it's very sought after, used. I guess when you get to the 99.9%, you could basically go down and get it liquefied, and you could also ship liquid helium. That would be a liquefaction plant. I guess that would be the pinnacle for us. I guess if we find enough reserves, we sure would like to build a purifier, a liquefier. But at this point, we're just bringing on 2 of our fields and hopefully more over the next few years anyways. After this, I guess, where does the helium go? Helium, that's what the tube trailer looks like. Currently, the contracts that we have set up, we have a marketing group that comes up and picks up our helium, and our helium actually is trucked into the US and goes into the MRI markets, the welding markets, and other gases. And these contracts that we have is a long-term take-or-pay contract, so it affords us a very stable cash flow model to model out and hopefully build our company from. And I guess kind of a quick summary of the Southwest Saskatchewan helium assets as far as the North American helium is concerned. Abundant uranium and thorium in the source rocks. Go back to the helium kitchen. We feel it's the best place in the world. That's why we're here. Long-term, an ideal operating location, excellent infrastructure. I guess we're the benefactor of 30 or 50 years of oil and gas in the area. We can piggyback on all the infrastructure with the roads, the electricity, natural gas, everything there. And then also multiple commercial opportunities, meaning that we hopefully, with an ongoing exploration and development drilling program over the next several years, we'll be able to start a bigger industry in the helium production in Southwest Saskatchewan. And after that, I guess I'd just like to thank everyone. And if there are any questions, please feel free to ask, or I'm not sure how you're going to mediate that, Caitlin, or how do you want to go from here?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, first off, thank you very much for the presentation. To any of our listeners on the webinar, feel free to type in any questions into the webinar dashboard. And to any of our listeners in Eastend, if you have any questions, maybe you can go through Krista or Tom.
We can forward them on if there's any questions.
Yeah, Donna also suggested if you want, if the questions come up later and you want to ask them later, you can forward them through Tom and we can answer them, via email too if it comes up later as well.
Yeah, we have a couple questions from the floor here. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna make Sue come up to the front here.
I just have a really simple question. In your during the purification process, are there any useful byproducts, or is it like the nitrogen gas dispersed into the atmosphere?
The nitrogen would be the most useful at this point. Unfortunately, we're too far away from any markets at this point. So we are just venting that. But, as time goes on and we get more and more production, I would imagine that we can extract some of the other gases, meaning like there's neon and argon and various other types of gases that are valuable, but just right at this point, we don't have enough volume to make it economic. Oh, and then also we, our high pressure vent gas, we are generating power, not generating it to sell back into the grid, but it's generating so we can use it ourselves and save ourselves money, if that answers your question.
It looks like you can nod your head, so thank you very much, Vance. Vance, I guess when I met with Donna about a year ago, it sounds very much like you're using a lot of existing wells and the environmental impact is relatively to minimal impact. So would you concur with that?
Yes, our impact is very, very low. Again, we don't, I guess, we use some of the existing wells. Mostly we drill our own because we are deeper, but we have taken over or bought other wells that do help us. So, I mean, as far as a footprint and any type of impact, I mean, ours is very minimal. I mean, the nitrogen that we put in the air is actually, I mean, we breathe 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. That's our air, right? So we don't have a real big impact.
Thanks, Caitlin, I'll turn it over to you and see if there's any online chat type questions as well, please.
Sorry, I had myself muted. Thank you, Tom. There are a couple of questions on the line. A listener named Carol would like to know how large of a footprint for a single well operation. Do you have an answer for that by chance?
Yes, less than our lease for a well. So if you put it into meters, say 60 meters by 40 meters. And then our lease, our typical drilling lease is 100 meters by 100 meters. So it's smaller than our actual drilling lease, but the visual impact, you'll just see buildings. You won't see a pump jack. You'll just see a building, and we've kind of designed it just like a Quonset, a pole shed, so it fits in and very, very pleasant to look at.
Thanks, Vance. A listener named Mike is wondering about the footprint of one like that at Cypress Hill.
That's what I'm telling you. It is. It's not very big.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, like
okay.
We have a building.
That's awesome.
The
Okay.
building was
And
110 feet by 60 feet, depending if you can multitask with the
Okay.
different units.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for that answer. There's a listener who's wondering about if you've considered pipeline transportation for helium. Is it feasible?
Good question. The unfortunate part with helium is that the infrastructure doesn't exist. And the markets are typically south of the border, or again, MRI machines that you have to go to a transfill station and then put it into smaller vehicles to go to like each hospital or each MRI and fill them up. So it's not practical, and the infrastructure does not allow it.
That makes sense. Thanks for that answer. A listener named Erica is wondering, is there potential for Zeppelin use and transportation to the north? Are there any environmental or habitat concerns?
Is it lifting operations?
Zeppelin operations.
Oh, like the big kind of blimp or those airships? Do we have any of those operations up in the north? No.
Yeah.
We just produce the helium. The other guys are much better at making those ships than we are.
Okay.
But
okay, thank you for that answer.
It's a good question because there is a lot of practicality to it versus those airships versus, let's just say, helicopters, for instance. The airships are a lot more efficient and they can carry a lot more. You know, just to kind of put that in context.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's all the answers we have on the line. I'll just check back in with Tom and Eastend to see if there's anyone there that has any more questions.
Thanks, Caitlin. I don't see